When I was commissioned into the Air Force, the officer who conducted the ceremony was a female 3-star general. She looked like your typical short, fit, friendly, middle-aged soccer mom, relevant to the story. Extremely nice and personable, and an alumna of my university. At breakfast beforehand, we were sharing a table, and she and my dad, a lieutenant colonel at the time, were talking. The general told a story of when she first showed up at a new base for her first posting as 3-star. While running on the track, a guy comes up and starts to run alongside her, asking if she just got there, etc. It quickly becomes very obvious he's hitting on her, so she turns him down and mentions she has a husband. He is not deterred and keeps on hitting on her. The man goes right on talking about how in shape he is, how good looking he is, how they should get together, etc. Also asking questions like, well, is your husband at the base yet? Are you staying by yourself in the TLF? TLF being a fancy sort of hotel. He thinks she's a spouse and figures she showed up to get the home in order before her husband arrives. He really wants to hang out, preferably at her hotel room, nor will he leave her alone until she agrees to a date. Finally, after about 15 minutes of him refusing to stop badgering her, she relents and agrees to meet up with him again. Fine, I'll free up some time and we can talk. What's your name and number? The harasser. I already like where this is going. The harasser gives her his name and phone number. He's a staff sergeant, many rungs down in the organization she's now vice commander of. Later that day, he was ordered to report to her office in service dress at 7:30 a.m. the next morning, along with his supervisor, his first sergeant, and his commander. Oh, our next Reddit post is from Striker Eureka. I deliver food for a major company for a living, and while most of our customers are very nice, we get the occasional person who drives us crazy. One customer requested her food be delivered at 5:30 p.m. I left the store at about 5:20 p.m., knowing it'd take about 10 minutes to get there. I ended up getting stuck behind slow drivers and arrived at 5:34 p.m. The woman flipped out. She was yelling at me and telling me that when she requests something for a specific time, it had better be there at that time, no sooner, no later. I got where she was coming from, but due to a variety of reasons, including not wanting drivers to drive dangerously to arrive at a specified time, we can't guarantee that it'll happen on the dot. She wasn't hearing any of it. No tip, but that was no surprise given her reaction. The following week, the same woman ordered again for the same time. This time around, we had more help in the store and I got the order out earlier than normal. I thought, F it, and went to get something to eat. I parked on the next street over and ate my food slowly, then delivered her food at exactly 5:30 p.m. This time around, she was on her phone and didn't say a word to me. No tip again. This process repeated, but I came to enjoy having some quiet time to eat, even if I wasn't getting tipped. One day, I was in a particularly mischievous mood and decided to just sit outside her house and eat my lunch. When I finally rang the doorbell at 5:30 p.m., she immediately whipped open the door and yelled, "Have you been sitting outside my house this whole time with my food?" "Yes." "Why in the heck didn't you bring it to me then?" "'Cause you said when you ordered something for 5:30, you wanted it at 5:30. It's 5:30. Didn't want to bring it to you too early. No tip. Worth it." Our next Reddit post is from Mumhana. A couple of summers ago, I took a part-time job as a server at a local restaurant. I already had a full-time job, so this was just for experience and to pick up some tip money on the side. The pub inside the restaurant had been closed for a few years after the old owner couldn't afford it anymore, so when the new owners picked it up and got it ready for opening again, the town was pretty excited. It's a bit of a town landmark, right in the middle of our main street. I applied as soon as I found out, and I ended up getting hired. I was one of the younger servers alongside a few older ones. Most of us were women, and the older servers really looked out for us unexperienced ones. Overall, the others on the team were really nice, save for a couple of nasty ones. My new boss, Gary, was, well, not as great. Gary's favorite saying was, "If you have time to lean, you have time to clean." He thought that if we took even a second to catch our breaths, he was losing money from us slacking off. On slow days, he would find menial, pointless tasks for us to complete. Wipe the bar counter, even though it had been wiped 3 times in the past half hour already. Reorganize the menus, even though they were already perfectly organized. Fill up more condiment cups, even though there's already 50 salsa cups ready to go. Stuff like that. The most tedious task, especially in the early months of summer, was sweeping the side alley that leads to the patio. There were these massive maple trees along the path, and they would drop leaves and seeds like crazy, especially on windy days. One afternoon in early June, there were only a handful of us working. It gets slow, and I get assigned the sweeping task. I sweep up the back alley as much as I can, but the wind is blowing and the trees just keep dumping more and more seeds onto the path. I do my best until a coworker calls me back inside to help serve tables. And she didn't want me to miss out on tips. Bless her. I seat the table, get their orders, and start entering them in. Just then, Gary storms up to me. "What are you doing?" "Entering table 15's order? Why?" "The side alley is a mess. I don't pay you to slack off." I swept up as much as I could before the table walked in. It's a really windy day. That's why it keeps getting full of leaves and seeds. You're more than welcome to check the compost bin for how much I actually did sweep up. "No, we do not finish things halfway here. You're going back out there and finishing your job. I want it to be spotless. The other waitress, Linda, can take table 15. Gary then switched table 15 from my account to Linda's account. Linda and I get along great. Linda told me, "I'll hang on to your share of the tips. Best not to make Gary angry." He really wants me to make it spotless. Does he know how impossible that is? I'd have to be out there all shift. That's when Linda gave me a smile and the light bulb turned on in my head. I still had 2 hours left in my shift, and it was going to be right into dinner rush. I grabbed the broom and dustpan and got to work. I would sweep up as much as I could, but every so often, another strong breeze would come by, and hundreds of more helicopter seeds would flutter to the ground. I just kept going. At this point, it started to get busier inside the restaurant. A line began to form outside the door. Linda was taking care of my tables, but very soon it became clear that the service needed someone else to help. Linda let them know what was up, and most of them, who tolerated Gary at best and hated him at worst, understood. I kept on sweeping. Like Sisyphus in the boulder, the task was never ending. I scooped up pile after pile after pile of leaves and seeds, to no avail. After 45 minutes or so, the side door suddenly opened to reveal a red-faced Gary. "Why aren't you in there serving customers?" I just gesture at the alleyway. As if the gods themselves had heard the malicious compliance brewing, another strong breeze shook more seeds into the partially cleared alley right in front of Gary's space. The look on his face was priceless. He told me in a quieter voice to get back inside and start taking orders. I handed the broom off to him, and he began to sweep and sweep and sweep. The other servers and I had a good laugh about it inside, and I managed to make decent tips that night. Gary realized that he couldn't exactly fire me for following his orders perfectly, and ended up being more relaxed about the side alley. No one really cares about some leaves and seeds on the ground, so long as they're not obstructing anyone. On my next shift, I found a broken broom in the garbage. I'd like to think that that was the work of Gary, red in the face and exhausted from battling against Mother Nature. Our next Reddit post is from Totacrone. This is the story of my former employer. I work in the Northeast U.S., and my employer at the time was a very small company, boss and 5 employees, in a very specific industry where 90% of her work was on construction sites. And finding a well-qualified person in this very specific industry is a very, very hard thing to do. My boss was the kind of boss that every employee hates. Corners were cut every possible way in order to keep overhead costs down. On top of that, he would constantly overbook on jobs, like signing contracts for 6 projects during the same week, knowing full well that he only has 5 employees, which would result in the employees often working 14-hour days or more, which really sucks when you're on salary, no overtime. His worst attribute by far was approving time off, and then during your time off, calling or texting you, asking if you would be willing to work a day or cut your vacation short. Sometimes he'd even ask you to move your time off to the next week or next month when the workload lightens up. And it never lightened up due to his constant overbooking. After working at this company for 6 years, I got used to all the aforementioned annoyances. But then things changed. My son was born. In the months leading up to his birth, I made it very clear that I would be taking a 5-week unpaid leave of absence once he arrives. The state we're in allows new parents to take up to 8 weeks of unpaid leave. I told my boss that I know 8 weeks would be a huge strain on such a small company. So I was willing to take 5 weeks, but those 5 weeks would be completely off the grid. Meaning, don't call me, don't text me. If you're going to ask me to do anything work-related, the answer will be no, so don't bother. I'm going to be spending time with my family. He 100% agreed. My son was born on a Friday, and after a short stay in the NICU, don't worry, he's fine, was released on Monday, and we took him home. Tuesday morning, the next day, I wake up to a missed call, an email, and 3 texts, all from my boss, asking me to call him back ASAP. For reasons still unknown to me to this day, I call him back, and he tells me there's a slight emergency. Code speak for he screwed up the scheduling and has a job with no employee at it, and asks if I could maybe come into work that day and maybe work a couple more days that week until he finds someone to cover it. I lost it. I literally felt something in my neck snap and unleashed a verbal assault on him that I still feel bad about now, a year later. I ended my rant with an apology. As much of a dick move it was for him to be calling me in that situation, it was still completely unprofessional of me to say what I said to him. Obviously, he wasn't a big fan of what I said, and after a small rant of his own, ended with the sentences that made this whole story possible. He said, "You've got a pretty good gig at this company that most people your age would be thankful for. I'd be impressed if you could find a better job in this field because I've been doing this for 30 years and I know how small this industry is, and trust me, good jobs like yours don't come along very often. Think about that." So we ended the call and I did what he said. I thought about it. After thinking about it for about 30 seconds, I got out of bed, sat down in front of my computer, and started looking at job postings. 5 weeks later, my time off came to an end, and my first day back, I came into work, walked into my boss's office, and handed him a piece of paper. "What's this?" "I thought about what you said, about how you'd be really impressed if I could find a better job than the one I have here. So I did." My boss reads over what I handed him. A job offer from a competitor for the exact same job I was performing, but at a 25% higher salary. An extra week of paid vacation compared to what I had, and a stipulation that company policy was that work hours are capped at 8 per day, meaning that once I hit 8 hours on a job, I pack up and leave until tomorrow. No exceptions. Well, then, can I have a day to crunch some numbers to come up with a counter offer? "No, don't bother. I just wanted you to see it because I know you wouldn't have believed me otherwise." Gave my 2-week notice and left for whatever job site I was on that day. That was a year ago, and I couldn't be happier with my new job. I get to spend lots of time with my boy, and that's the best job perk there is. For all you bosses and managers out there, don't mess with your employees, especially the good ones. Treat them how you'd want to be treated. Most employees don't quit their jobs, they quit their boss.